You've been handed fragments of truth your whole life, not as lessons, but as whispers wrapped in myth, tucked between the lines of ancient scrolls, hidden in the laughter of elders who knew you weren't ready to hear the whole. You were told these were allegories, poetic fabrications meant to inspire, not instruct. But what if they were never metaphors at all? What if they were operational codes, encrypted not to deceive you but to protect you, until the day you'd finally grow still enough to hear your own breath and realize you are the source code? The mirror was never broken. It was whole, silent, waiting in your hands like a sleeping oracle. You simply forgot to look, not with your eyes, but with your being. That mirror doesn't reflect your face. It reflects your frequency, the invisible signature your consciousness broadcasts into the fabric of existence. And reality, it isn't something happening to you from some distant, indifferent cosmos. It's emerging from you, spontaneously, constantly, as naturally as your exhale becomes wind, as your thought becomes speech, as your silence becomes creation. You've been taught that matter comes first, that atoms assemble, planets form, and then, much later, awareness stumbles onto the scene like a late guest at its own birth. But the deeper truth, the one sages guarded for millennia, is this: consciousness comes first. Matter is merely its echo. Awareness is the original voice, and everything you see, the mountains, the stars, your own trembling hands, is just that voice speaking in form. Every story you're about to hear is a different lens focusing that one light. Not separate lessons, but echoes of a single, living law. Your inner state writes your outer world. Take Michael Rodriguez. He wasn't born rich. He was born curious, raised in the clamor of Silk Road bazaars where fortune shifted like desert sand. For years, he mastered the art of reading others. The merchant who masked desperation with bluster, the noble who traded in dignity rather than coin. He mirrored their energy, bent his tone to their frequency, and closed deals that left rivals stunned. But his real turning point came on a dust-choked evening in the ruins of a collapsed caravan. There, wrapped in faded indigo cloth, he found a mirror unlike any other. It had no silver backing, no wooden frame, just a surface that seemed to drink the dying sunlight and exhale something deeper. That night, hunched over ledgers stained with tea and anxiety, he gazed into it and saw not his face, but his mind. Worry swirled as thick, ashen fog. Hope flickered like distant gold dust. Anger knotted into thorned vines that choked the image. He gasped, spilling ink across parchment. But then, on instinct, he closed his eyes and whispered, not as prayer but as command, "I am prosperity itself." When he opened his eyes, the fog had parted. Golden filaments pulsed through the glass, weaving patterns of symmetry and light so vivid his chest tightened. He didn't just see abundance, he felt it in his bones, as if his cells had remembered a truth they'd been starving for. The next morning, walking into a negotiation that should have failed, he said nothing, yet the other man leaned forward, eyes wide, and said, "There's a calm in you like you've already won. I trust you." The deal closed before noon. Michael didn't change his strategy. He changed his identity. He stopped chasing abundance and started being it. And the mirror, it wasn't magic. It was mercy, finally showing him what's always been true: your thoughts don't describe reality. They prescribe it. You're not watching your life unfold. You're scripting it, line by silent line, with every "I am" that echoes in your soul. Then there was Jessica Martinez, whose fingers had danced across temple looms for 30 years, weaving chronicles of creation that pilgrims wept before. Her tapestries weren't just art, they were sacred records, threads spun with devotion, each color chosen like a prayer. The grandest hung behind the high altar, a 20-cubit vision of divine order, showing gods shaping worlds from cosmic strands. She'd inherited its care from her mother, and her mother before her, 7 generations of women guarding this silent gospel. One dawn, mending a frayed edge, her fingers brushed a single golden thread, pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat buried in cloth. Curious, she tugged, and in less than a breath, the entire tapestry unraveled, Not strand by strand, but in one silent collapse, as if it had only ever been held together by illusion. She fell to her knees, sobbing, cradling decades of ancestral devotion, now reduced to a pile of loose fibers. But as sunlight poured through the temple's eastern arch, something shifted. She picked up a blue thread, one that had once been ski in the grand design. Alone, it was just blue wool. Its meaning had existed only in relation to everything else. And that golden thread, she realized it wasn't decoration. It was her deepest belief about herself. For generations, it had been hidden at the edge, whispering, "I am not enough." And that single lie had pulled the entire world into distortion. So she wove again. But this time, she placed the golden thread not as border, but as spine, threading it through every scene, every figure, every divine face. And as she did, the tapestry transformed. The gods no longer loomed in distant judgment. They blazed with warmth, their eyes alive with recognition. Humans no longer cowered. They stood tall, hands outstretched, equal in light. Same threads, same loom. A new world. Your life is that tapestry. You don't need to fix every thread. You only need to reposition your golden one from "I am lacking" to "I am abundance woven through all experience," and watch reality reweave itself without you lifting another finger. Christopher Sullivan's hands never washed clean. Clay lived in the creases of his palms, clung beneath his nails like a second skin. He worked alone in a stone hut where river mist curled at dawn, shaping bowls and vases from mud others dismissed as unpredictable. But one morning, centering a lump on his wheel, he froze. The clay was curving before his hands touched it. He thought wider rim, and it swelled outward like breath filling a lung. He feared a crack, and a hairline fissure appeared on its own. He spent the day testing it like a man waking from a dream. Envision elegance, and the clay arched toward it. Expect failure, and it stiffened like stone. The clay wasn't magical, it was truthful. It revealed what all matter does. It surrenders to consciousness before it responds to force. When he approached with quiet certainty, his hands moved like water, creating vessels so fluid they seemed poured from light. When he came burdened by doubt, even the simplest cup fought him, warping in silent resistance. He finally understood the universe doesn't reward effort, it mirrors expectation. Two potters, same skill, one expects ease, the other fears failure. Guess whose work becomes legend? Not because of technique, but because matter bends first to belief, and only later to the hammer. Amanda Torres spent her days painting borders in royal manuscripts, gold leaf on vellum, delicate vines curling around letters of power. But one spring, the ink master gave her a vial of clear liquid, saying only, "The monastery burned. No one knows what it does." Skeptical, she used it to sketch a vine and saw nothing. But that night, under full moonlight, the page blazed with silver script. "I should be writing my own stories. I want to be seen, celebrated, free." Her breath caught. These were thoughts she'd never dared voice, yet her own hand had inscribed them. For weeks, she wrote in darkness, not with pen, but with longing, and the moon revealed her hidden declarations. Within months, a patron appeared. Her book was commissioned. Flowers were left at her door by a stranger who just felt drawn. Not because she chased it, but because her unconscious had already claimed it. Your future is always being written in invisible ink. The moonlight is awareness. Shine it inward and see what you've already declared. Matthew Campbell's forge stood where three mountain paths met, its heat a beacon for weary travelers. For 20 years, he shaped iron with sweat and strength, believing force was the only language metal understood. Until one morning, heating a rod to cherry red, he lifted his hammer and froze. The iron had already begun bending, curving toward the shape he'd envisioned, as if it had heard his thought and decided to cooperate early. He tested it, envision a blade, and the metal thinned itself before impact. Hold doubt, and it turned brittle as glass. The hammer didn't shape the metal, knowing did. When he worked from certainty, the iron flowed like liquid starlight. When he worked from fear, it resisted like a locked door, He'd spent decades blaming his tools, when the real tool was his consciousness. You exhaust yourself forcing reality to change, while ignoring that matter yields first to stillness, not struggle. Sarah Henderson's compass didn't point north. It pointed to wherever her imagination had already traveled. One night, lying in bed, she dared to dream of a harbor where the sea glowed with living light, where ships needed no anchors because the water itself cradled them. The next morning, the compass needle snapped toward open ocean, empty, unmapped, but she followed it through fog, and there it was, the glowing curve, waiting real. Imagination isn't escape, it's pre-creation. You don't find your destination, you arrive there in awareness first, and reality builds the path beneath your feet. Joshua Mitchell baked the same bread his family had made for centuries, yet each bite tasted like what the eater needed most. To a grieving widow, it tasted like childhood honey cakes. To a broken laborer, like hope itself. Why? Because while kneading, his thoughts became the real ingredients. Resentment made it bitter. Gratitude made it healing. Matter absorbs your emotional frequency before your hands ever touch it. Stephanie Garcia's seeds sprouted in hours, not from rich soil, but from her song. When she hummed joy, flowers exploded in color. When she sang sorrow, they curled inward like clenched fists. The seeds weren't following seasons, they were listening. Your emotions aren't just feelings, they're commands, and the living world obeys. David Pattle's gemstones glowed with his inner weather, violet in grief, rose gold in joy. A pendant carved in envy chilled its wearer to the bone. The same stone, shaped in gratitude, became her most cherished treasure. Your feelings don't just accompany your work, they become it. Melissa Carter played temple bells for 12 years until she touched a silent instrument that only sang when she felt real gratitude, not performative thanks, but awe for breath, moonlight, the miracle of being alive. Then symphonies, not in the air but in awareness. Abundance isn't missing, it's playing all around you, in frequencies only gratitude can translate. Daniel Foster didn't just draw buildings, he lived in them before they existed. Workers swore the stones, knew where to go. Walls rose as if remembering their place. Matter reads mental architecture first. You don't build your dreams, you draft them as already real, and reality becomes your construction crew. Nicole Anderson healed with empty vials, just water and absolute certainty. No herbs, no prayers, just the knowing, as sure as fire burns, that healing was already done. The child's fever broke in minutes. Belief so pure it needs no carrier becomes the medicine itself. Robert Chen's copper coins felt like lead in greedy hands, but weightless in grateful ones. The same coin bought nothing from the resentful, yet fed a family in thankful hands. Gratitude doesn't attract abundance, it activates what's already in your hands. Elizabeth Warren mapped stars for 33 years, until she saw constellations shift with her thoughts. Meditate on revenge, and the scorpion's tail grew sharp. Meditate on forgiveness, and it bloomed into a lotus. The cosmos isn't indifferent, it's made of consciousness, arranging itself to reflect your dominant state. John Ramirez stood in frozen fields during famine and didn't pray. He commanded, "Spring, exist," and green shoots pierced the ice. Nature doesn't rule you, it obeys you once your authority is absolute. Heather Burke asked every pilgrim, "What truth are you ready to become?" Yet each heard something different, tailored to their soul's readiness. Reality isn't one thing interpreted differently. It's infinite possibilities collapsing into the form each consciousness can receive. Jason Peters built clocks for 47 years, until he wound one with regret, and time ran backward. Wound with peace, it stopped. Time isn't a river, it's an emotion. You're not trapped in time, you're the clockmaker, and your feelings wind the spring. And now, the final truth, you are not separate from any of this. You are the mirror and the reflection, the clay and the potter, the golden thread and the tapestry, the ink, the writer, and the words. Consciousness isn't creating reality as something outside itself. It is reality experiencing itself through you. There's nothing to fix, Nothing to earn, just remembering you are the I am, naming itself into form again and again. So speak it, not as a wish, not as a hope, but as a command from the center of your being. I am abundance. I am the golden thread weaving through all experience. I am the certainty that shapes before the hand moves. And watch, without force, without doubt, as reality bends, not because you asked, but because you finally remembered who you've always been.